She found a note on her desk on a Wednesday morning. No name, no explanation, just 7 words written in steady, unhurried handwriting on a torn piece of notepad paper. I haven't even begun showing you what wanting looks like. Naomi Bridges stood over her desk in her good heels and her pressed blazer with her coffee going cold in her hand, reading those 7 words 4 times. She wasn't the kind of woman who got notes. She wasn't the kind of woman who stood still long enough for anyone to want to leave one. And yet, she folded it, slipped it into her blazer pocket, walked into her 8 a.m. meeting like her whole chest wasn't doing something it had no business doing. This is a story of how Connor Mercer walked into the wrong room and never really left. Welcome to our channel, where we bring you emotional stories that stay with you. If you're new here, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you never miss a story. And if you're returning, thank you. Your support means everything. Now, stay until the end, drop a comment with your thoughts, and let's begin. Naomi Bridges had a system for everything. Her coffee order hadn't changed in 4 years. Medium dark roast, oat milk, no sugar. The kind of order that told you she had made peace with herself a long time ago and wasn't interested in being talked into anything sweeter. She was at her desk every morning by 7:45. She reviewed her calendar before she took her coat off. She kept her office plans alive, her inbox under 50 emails, and her personal life in a separate compartment that she only opened on her own terms. She was VP of Marketing at Caldwell & Reed, a mid-sized PR firm on the 14th floor of a glass building in Midtown Atlanta. She had been there 6 years. She had earned every inch of that title, first as an account manager, then a senior strategist, then the person everyone called when a client was about to walk and somehow never walked. She was good at reading people. She was good at knowing exactly how much to give and exactly when to stop. She was 35 years old, and she had built a life that worked. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers, and it held. That Tuesday started like every other Tuesday. She had a 9 a.m. strategy session with her team in conference room, be a standing weekly meeting she ran tightly, agenda distributed the night before, no phones on the table. Her team knew not to come in underprepared. They also knew that Naomi wasn't mean about it. She just didn't slow down for it. There was a difference. She got a conference room B at 8:57, set her laptop at the head of the table, pulled up the deck, arranged her notes. At 9:01, her team started filing in Priya, Marcus, Keisha, Devin, and Tara. Normal, settled, coffee cups and notebooks. At 9:04, a man she had never seen before walked in, looked around the room briefly, and sat down in the open chair 2 seats to her left like he had every reason to be there. Naomi looked at him. He looked back at her with the kind of calm that belonged to someone who had never once in his life walked into a room and felt like he didn't fit. He was tall, even-seated, dark hair, slightly overgrown like he hadn't prioritized a haircut recently, hazel eyes that didn't rush anywhere, white mid-30s, wearing a navy button-down that looked like it had been ironed by someone who cared, which meant probably him, a leather portfolio in front of him. No coffee. Can I help you? Naomi said, not rude, just clear. Connor Mercer. He said it like it was meant to answer question. I was told conference room B, 9 o'clock. Naomi's eyes moved to Priya briefly, then back. This is our marketing strategy session. He glanced down at his portfolio, opened it, looked at something. I have restructuring kickoff. Conference room B, Caldwell & Reed. He looked up. Same building. Same room. Naomi said, different meeting. Something moved at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile. More like he was deciding whether to be amused or apologetic, and the amused was winning slightly. Someone's gonna catch heat for this. Probably, Naomi said. She picked up her phone, typed a quick message to the front desk coordinator, and set it back down. Conference room D is open. Down the hall, turn left. He closed his portfolio. Stood. He was taller than she clocked. Sorry for the interruption. No harm done. He nodded once unhurried. Steady picked up his things and walked out. Naomi looked at her team. Her team looked at her. All right, she said, clicking to the first slide. Let's go. She didn't think about him for the rest of the meeting. That was what she told herself later. She found out who he was by noon because this was a PR firm and information moved through it like warm air. Connor Mercer, brought in by upper management, specifically by Richard Caldwell himself, which meant this wasn't a mid-level hire, it was a signal. Connor ran his own independent consulting firm out of Chicago. He had spent the last 8 years helping mid-sized companies restructure operations, usually when growth had outpaced the systems holding everything together. He was quiet about his reputation, which meant his reputation was large enough that he didn't have to announce it. He would be embedded at Caldwell and Reed for 12 weeks. Naomi absorbed this information over a salad at her desk and thought, 12 weeks is nothing. She had outlasted harder things than a consultant with good posture and a steady stare. She didn't see him again until Thursday. She was coming out of the elevator, both hands full of laptop bags on one shoulder, a box of revised brand materials under her other arm, her phone wedged between her ear and her shoulder while she finished the call. She was moving fast. She was always moving fast. The hallway outside the elevators had a blind corner, and she came around it and walked directly into a solid-walled person. The box slipped. Connor caught it. One hand, smooth, without fumbling, just reached out and caught the corner of the box before it hit the floor. He held it for a second, let her get her grip back, then let go. She pulled the phone from her ear. Sorry, I wasn't watching where you were going. He said it without any edge, just observed it. I was watching. There was just something in the way. That almost smile again. The box okay? The box is fine. She adjusted it under her arm, looked at him directly. You found conference room D, all right? Eventually, he shifted the portfolio under his own arm. Your front desk coordinator sends her apologies. I heard. Naomi started moving again. He fell into step beside her, which she hadn't invited. But the hallway was going the same direction for both of them, so she didn't say anything. Marketing VP, he said after a few steps. It wasn't a question exactly. That's right. How long? 6 years total. 2 as VP. He nodded, processing that like it meant something specific to him. You'll probably hate the next few months, he said pleasantly. She glanced at him sideways. Excuse me? Restructuring. It always disrupts the people who built the strongest systems, because they're the ones most attached to how things currently run. He said it without apology, but not without gentleness either. Doesn't mean the systems are wrong. Just means change costs something. Naomi stopped walking. He stopped a half step later and turned to look at her. I've been here 6 years, she said. I've survived 2 ownership transitions, a rebrand, 3 rounds of layoffs that didn't touch my team, and a client crisis that almost ended this company. I don't rattle. He looked at her for a moment, really looked, not checking her out, not sizing her up competitively. Something more specific than either of those things. I believe you, he said. And then he turned at the next hallway junction and walked the other way. Naomi stood there for exactly 2 seconds longer than she intended to. Then she kept moving. The next 2 weeks established a rhythm neither of them designed. Connor's restructuring work put him in contact with every department, which meant Naomi's team was on his list. He sat in on 2 of her strategy sessions, observer only, said almost nothing, took notes in that leather portfolio in handwriting she couldn't read from across the table. He asked her team 1 or 2 questions at the end of each session. Quiet, specific questions that showed he had been paying close attention to things no one had flagged as important. Her team liked him faster than she was comfortable with. He's good, Priya told her in the break room on a Friday afternoon. Like, actually good. He asked Marcus about the Hendricks account workflow and in 15 minutes identified the thing that's been slowing us down for 8 months. He's doing his job, Naomi said, rinsing her coffee mug. I'm just saying. Priya looked at her with a particular expression of someone who had worked with Naomi long enough to know when she was managing her own reaction to something. She didn't push it. She just took her lunch back to her desk. Naomi and Connor had a way of ending up in the same space as the break room, the elevator bank. The 14th floor lobby near the windows where the afternoon light came in warm and wide. It wasn't manufactured. The building was one floor. The coffee machine was one coffee machine. They talked the way people talk when they're being professional about something that doesn't feel entirely professional. She found out he was from Chicago originally, South Side, came up in a big, loud Irish Catholic family, 5 siblings, a mother who still called every Sunday and expected an actual conversation, not a text. He had a dry humor that he kept low, like he was only turning up the volume slightly and trusting you to lean in if you wanted to hear it. He didn't perform. He didn't try to impress her. He asked her questions and then actually waited for the answers, which was rarer than it should have been. She told him about growing up in Decatur, 20 minutes from where they were standing, about her mother's Sunday dinner's collard greens that had been simmering since Saturday night, mac and cheese that was made in a cast iron pan and not up for discussion, cornbread that her grandmother's hands had made the same way for 50 years, about how she had left for Howard University at 18 and come back to Atlanta at 26, and the city had looked different from the outside and the same from the inside, and she had loved it both ways. He listened like the details mattered. She noticed that. She filed it somewhere and didn't look at it directly. 3 weeks in, on a Wednesday evening when most of the office had already cleared out, Naomi was still at her desk finishing a deck for a Friday presentation. The floor was quiet. The overhead lights had dimmed to their after-hours setting. Her desk lamp was on. Jill Scott was low on her Bluetooth speaker, a long walk, which she put on when she needed to settle into focus. She heard him before she saw him, the sound of the break room coffee machine, which was the only thing on the 14th floor still getting regular use at 7 p.m. He appeared in her open doorway a few minutes later, leaned against a frame with 2 mugs. He lifted one slightly. "Dark roast," he said. "Oat milk." "No sugar. The machine doesn't do oat milk, so it's just black." But the thought was accurate. She looked at him. Her chest did the thing again. "You noticed my coffee order," she said. "I noticed things." He set the second mug on the edge of her desk and kept the first one. Didn't come further into the office. Just leaned in the doorway like a man who understood the difference between an invitation and an assumption. Naomi looked down at the mug, then back at her screen. Then she picked it up. "You're here late," she said. "So are you. I have a presentation Friday. I have a full department report due to Caldwell by end of week." He looked at the frame print on her wall, a Romari Bearden piece. Bold colors, 2 figures. "That's a good one. My mother gave it to me when I got the promotion." He was quiet for a moment. Jill Scott filled the silence warmly. "You're going to be fine, you know," he said. "Not about the presentation. Something wider than that." Naomi looked at him. "I know that. I know you know it." He pushed off the door frame. "Good night, Naomi." "Good night, Connor." She listened to his footsteps down the hall. The elevator. The quiet. She sat with her coffee going warm in her hands and Jill Scott playing low, and something in her chest that she was running out of good reasons to ignore. The presentation on Friday went the way Naomi's presentations always went. Clean, sharp, confident. The kind of delivery that made clients feel like they were in good hands before she had finished the first slide. The Hendricks account executives sat across the conference table and nodded and asked good questions and left with everything they needed. Richard Caldwell caught her eye across the room at the end and gave her the small nod that from him meant more than a standing ovation from anyone else. She packed up her laptop feeling solid, grounded, herself. Connor was standing in the hallway outside the conference room when she came out. He wasn't waiting for her, or at least he had a reason to be there. That wasn't her. He was reading something on his phone, leaning against the wall with one ankle crossed over the other, completely unhurried. He looked up when the door opened. "How'd it go?" he asked. "The way it was supposed to." He smiled then. A real one, not the almost smile she had cataloged over the past weeks. It changed his face, opened something in it. She felt it land somewhere behind her sternum. "Good," he said. Simple. Like he meant it the way people mean things when they're not performing them. She fell into step beside him toward the elevator bank. The floor was buzzing. It was Friday afternoon, energy loose and lighter than the rest of the week. "Your plans tonight?" he asked. The question was casual. His voice was casual. But he looked at her sideways when he asked it, and there was nothing casual about that look. "My friend Kezia's in town," Naomi said. "We're doing dinner. Probably stay out too late and talk too much." She paused. "You?" "Quiet evening. New city still. I don't know Atlanta well enough yet to have Friday night plans." "You've been here a month." "I work a lot." He said it without apology and without pride. Just fact. She pressed the elevator button. "You should get to know the city. It's worth knowing." "I'm starting to think so." She looked at him. He was already looking at her. The elevator arrived, and they both stepped in, and she pressed 14 out of habit before remembering she was already on 14 and had meant to press the lobby. She stared at the panel for a half second. "Lobby," he said, and pressed it for her. No comment. No teasing. She appreciated that more than she wanted to admit. They rode down in a silence that had stopped being uncomfortable somewhere around week 2 and had become something else entirely, the kind of quiet that meant both people were aware of it and neither one was running from it. In the lobby, he held the door open for her without making a production. Outside, the Atlanta afternoon was warm, the kind of warm that felt like the city exhaling. The street was loud with Friday energy cars, voices, music from somewhere down the block. "Have a good weekend, Connor," she said. "You too, Naomi." He looked at her for a moment, that specific, unhurried look she had stopped pretending she didn't feel. "Enjoy dinner." She walked to her car. She did not look back. She thought about looking back the entire way. Dinner with Kezia ran along the way it always did. They went to spot in Old Fourth Ward that Naomi loved, low lighting, good music, the kind of menu that took its time and meant it. Kezia had been her best friend since Howard. She was a pediatric surgeon now, living in D.C., flying back to Atlanta 4 or 5 times a year for no reason other than that Atlanta was home and some things you don't let go of. They ordered salmon and shrimp and grits and a bottle of wine that lasted through most of the conversation. Naomi told her about the restructuring, about Connor. She tried to keep it factual, consultant. 12 weeks, professional, co-worker, and Kezia sat across from her with one eyebrow raised and let her finish before she said anything. "Say his name again," Kezia said. "Kezia, just say it, the way you said it just now." Naomi picked up her wine glass. "You're reading into things. You brought him up 4 times in 20 minutes without me asking a single question about him." Kezia tilted her head. "You haven't brought up a man 4 times in a conversation since. Actually, I don't remember the last time. He's interesting. That's all. Interesting." Kezia repeated it like she was turning it over. Okay. I said, "Okay, Naomi." But she was smiling into her glass. Naomi changed the subject. But Kezia's smile stayed where she had left it, and Naomi felt it the whole rest of the evening, sitting just at the edge of her awareness. The note appeared the following Wednesday. She came in at 7:45 like always. Coat off, calendar reviewed, coffee from the break room. She sat down at her desk, opened her laptop, reached for her notepad to write out her morning task list. The folded piece of paper was sitting on top of her keyboard. She stared at it for a second, picked it up, unfolded it. 7 words. Steady, unhurried handwriting. The same handwriting she had seen across conference tables for a month now and had never had reason to study up close. "I haven't even begun showing you what wanting looks like." Naomi sat very still. Her office was quiet. The floor was still filling in, coats and coffee cups and morning voices in the distance. Jill Scott wasn't on yet. Nothing was on. Just her and this piece of paper and 7 words that landed in her chest like something she'd been waiting for without knowing she was waiting. She read it again and again. Then she folded it carefully, slid it into the inside pocket of her blazer clothes, where she could feel it, and opened her laptop and pulled up her morning tasks like her hands weren't doing the thing they were doing. She worked for 2 hours. She was productive. She was focused. She was a professional woman with a full calendar and a team that depended on her and a presentation deck that needed one more pass before the afternoon. At 10:15, she got up, walked down the hall, and knocked on the door of the small office Connor had been given for his 12 weeks. He was at his desk. He looked up when she knocked. His face was still and open, not surprised, not smug, like he had been expecting her and had been patient about it. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. She did not sit down. She reached into her blazer pocket and set the folded note on his desk without saying anything. He looked at it, then at her. "You broke into my office," she said. "The cleaning crew leave the doors unlocked until 7, he said. "I wasn't breaking. I was visiting. At 6 in the morning. I told you I work a lot." Naomi looked at him. Her pulse was doing something she wasn't going to acknowledge out loud. "Connor, what is this?" He leaned back in his chair. He was wearing a gray button-down today, sleeves already rolled to the forearm, and he had the steady, unhurried presence of a man who had thought carefully about what he wanted to say and wasn't afraid of it. "It's exactly what it says," he told her. "You've been here 5 weeks. I know how long I've been here. We worked together. Temporarily," he said. 7 more weeks, and then I'm a man you used to work with for 3 months. He held her eyes. "I'm aware of the situation, Naomi. I thought about it before I wrote anything down." She was quiet. Something in her chest was pulling in 2 directions at once to part her that had built everything carefully and maintained it carefully and knew exactly what happened when you let something in without knowing the full cost. And the other part, the part that had read those 7 words 4 times Wednesday morning and put the note in her pocket like something valuable. "You think about things before you do them," she said. "Usually. So you thought about this." "I thought about you," he said simply. "There's a difference." The room was quiet. Somewhere down the hall, someone laughed at something. The ordinary sound of the Thursday morning going about its business, while Naomi stood in the small office with her heart doing something large and inconvenient. "What does it mean?" she asked. Her voice was steady. She was proud of that. "What you wrote. What does it mean?" Connor stood up. He came around the desk not fast, not crowding her, just closing the distance between standing across from someone and standing near them. He stopped close enough that she could see the particular color of his hazel eyes in the morning light from the window. Warm, complex patient. He reached out and lifted her chin with 2 fingers light, unhurried, like he had done this in his mind enough times to be calm about it now that it was real. He looked at her. "It means I see you," he said, low and steady. "Not just a version you keep polished and ready for public consumption. I see how you move through a room. I see how your team looks at you when you're not watching them. I see you at 7 p.m. with Jill Scott on, and your blazer on the back of your chair working on something you already know is going to be perfect because you won't let it be anything else." His thumb rested lightly at her jaw. "I see you, Naomi. And I want you to know that everything you felt in this building for the past 5 weeks, whatever you've been filing away and not looking at directly," he paused, hazel eyes steady, voice dropping just slightly. "I've felt it too, every day. And I haven't even begun showing you what wanting looks like." Naomi's breath came out slow and uneven. She had not moved. His 2 fingers were still light at her chin. The space between them was small and warm and full of everything that had been building since a Tuesday morning, when a man walked into the wrong conference room and sat down like he belonged somewhere near her. She could feel the note in her blazer pocket, close to her chest. 7 weeks, she said. 7 weeks, he agreed. And then the almost smile came back, but wider this time. Real. And then I'm a man who knew exactly what he wanted and wasn't in any hurry to stop wanting it. She looked at him for a long moment, then slowly, deliberately, on her own terms the way she did everything she stepped forward, closed the remaining distance. And when she kissed him, it was soft and certain, and it felt like something she had earned by being exactly who she was every single day of the years that brought her here. His hand moved from her chin to her jaw to the back of her neck, and he kissed her back the way he did everything else without rushing, without performing, like he had all the time in the world and intended to use it. When they pulled back, she was looking at his collar. He was looking at her. "I still have a 10:45, she said. "I know your calendar." She laughed. Its surprise are full and warm, coming up from somewhere real. He smiled at the sound of it, like it was the thing he had been most waiting to hear. She straightened her blazer. picked up the note from his desk, put it back in her pocket. Connor, Naomi, dinner, she said. Not this building, not a working lunch. Actual dinner. Friday. He nodded once, unhurried, like a man who had been patient long enough to know that patience paid. Friday. She walked to the door, opened it, stepped into the hallway and back into the clean, organized forward motion of her Thursday morning. She did not look back. She didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, she already knew exactly what was behind her, and she was glad for every step that had brought her there. Some people walk into the wrong room and find the right thing. Some people spend years building walls only to meet someone who doesn't knock, who just waits, quietly, on the other side, until you're ready to open the door yourself. Naomi Bridges had a system for everything. Connor Mercer didn't break it. He just showed her there was something worth building on the other side of it. She kept the note. She always would. What would you rate the story? Drop 0 to 10 in the comments right now. If this story moved you, hit subscribe for more emotional journeys every day. And if it truly touched your heart, consider leaving a super thanks. Your support helps us create more stories like this. Every contribution, big or small, means the world. Ready for the next story? It's even more dramatic than this one. Click now. Thank you for being part of this journey.